The whisper that shook the world. The rain tapped gently on the roof of the small cabin where Keanu Reeves sat, lost in thought. Outside, the gray sky stretched far beyond the trees, and the sound of water dripping from the pine needles brought a strange kind of peace. But inside his heart, there was no peace. It had been a hard year. The world thought he was just a movie star, someone with charm and calm. But Keanu knew better. He was a father first. And lately, something about his only son Elias had changed. In a way he could not explain. Elias was just 9 years old. Curious, sensitive, full of questions about the world. But 3 weeks ago, he began to speak differently. Not just different words, but a new kind of wisdom, deep, calm, and sometimes even eerie. At first, Keanu had brushed it off as imagination. Kids say strange things. But when Elias looked into his father's eyes that morning and whispered, "Jesus told me a secret," Keanu felt the ground shift beneath him. "What do you mean?" Keanu had asked, kneeling so their eyes were level. Elias didn't answer right away. He looked past his father, out the window, as if he could see something far away, something invisible to everyone else. He said, "People forgot how to listen." Elias murmured, "And that we're supposed to fix that." Keanu's heart thudded. Something about the way his son said it, quiet but certain, sent a chill up his spine. The boy wasn't joking. He wasn't playing. And for the first time in years, Keanu felt truly afraid, not of danger, but of something greater, something he didn't understand. Later that day, Keanu sat at the kitchen table, sipping tea and watching Elias draw with colored pencils. He was sketching something strange, an open sky with thousands of tiny hands reaching down from above. And below, people reaching up. No faces, no names, just hands. Hundreds of them. The image was haunting and beautiful all at once. Why are they all reaching? Keanu asked gently. Elias didn't look up, because they forgot how to hear God. Keanu put the cup down slowly. "Elias, what's going on?" "You're saying things I don't understand." "You're dreaming a lot, aren't you?" Elias nodded. "Every night." "What kind of dreams?" The boy's eyes were soft. "I see a man. I know he's Jesus, even though he doesn't say it. He never tells me what to do. He just shows me. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we sit. But he always tells me a secret at the end." Keanu leaned forward, his fingers trembling slightly. "What kind of secrets?" Elias finally looked up. "They're not scary. They're beautiful. He told me the world is full of broken doors, and that people forgot how to knock." That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He sat outside the cabin, under the stars, listening to the wind rustling through the trees. His son's words repeated in his mind like a song he couldn't turn off. Broken doors. Forgotten knocks. What did it mean? He tried to reason it out. Maybe Elias had heard something at Sunday school. Maybe a book he picked up. Maybe even YouTube. Kids today were always absorbing things. But deep down, Keanu knew this was something different. This wasn't about imagination. It felt like a message, like someone was trying to reach him. The next morning, Keanu took Elias into town. He thought a little distraction might help, maybe ice cream, a walk through the old bookstore, something normal. But even in public, Elias seemed different. As they passed a homeless man on the corner, Elias stopped and stared. "Dad," he whispered. "That man, he used to be a pastor." Keanu blinked. "What?" "He forgot who he is. He stopped listening, and then he got lost." Keanu crouched down. "How do you know that?" Elias didn't answer. He just walked over to the man and sat down beside him. The man looked up, confused, and smiled sadly. "You okay, little buddy?" Elias nodded. "Do you remember preaching in a church with red windows?" The man froze. His eyes widened. His breath caught. Keanu watched, stunned, as the man started to cry. "How? How do you know that?" Elias said nothing. He just reached out and took the man's hand. Keanu knelt beside them. He didn't have the words, and something in that moment shifted in him. It wasn't just about being a father anymore. Something was happening, something holy, after they returned to the cabin. Keanu's phone buzzed. It was a missed call from a director he admired, offering a major role in a new film. It was the kind of project most actors would dream of: big studio, big money, big exposure. But as Keanu stared at the screen, he felt nothing. The offer didn't move him. It didn't matter. He looked over at Elias, who was outside now, barefoot in the grass, staring up at the sky. There was something pure in the boy's stillness, something sacred. And Keanu realized that he couldn't go back to the life he'd known, not now. Not when something so much bigger was unfolding. He walked outside and sat beside his son, Elias. He said softly, "Do you think Jesus is trying to talk to me too?" The boy smiled. "He already is. You just stopped listening a long time ago." Those words hit harder than anything ever had. Later that week, Keanu took Elias to a nearby lake. It was a quiet place, surrounded by tall trees and silence. They sat by the water, skipping stones. The sky was a soft gold as the sun began to set. "Dad," Elias said suddenly, "he told me another secret." Keanu's pulse quickened. "What did he say?" Elias looked out at the water. "He said, one man with love in his heart can change the world. But first, he must let go of everything he's holding." Keanu stared at his reflection in the lake. The words pierced him. He thought of the pain he carried, of his sister's death, of lost love, of fame, of loneliness. He'd spent years pretending it didn't weigh him down. But now, in the presence of his son's quiet wisdom, it all felt too heavy. He broke down. Tears streamed down his face as he covered his eyes. He wept not just for what he had lost, but for what he had become: so busy, so admired, yet so empty. Elias didn't say anything. He just leaned against his father's shoulder, and that was the first time in years that Keanu felt truly free. A few days later, something even stranger happened. They were walking through town again when a woman came rushing out of a small cafe, screaming. Her little daughter was choking on something, blueberry muffin maybe. People froze. No one moved. The mother sobbed. Panicking. Without hesitation, Elias ran forward. He didn't yell. He didn't panic. He gently placed his hand on the girl's back and whispered something Keanu couldn't hear. The girl coughed. Once. Twice. Then the blueberry popped out of her mouth and landed on the ground. She gasped and began to cry, but she was breathing. Kef erupted. The mother fell to her knees, hugging her daughter. People clapped. Some filmed. Some prayed. Keanu just stood there, in awe, staring at his son. "Elias," he said later that night, "who are you?" The boy smiled gently. "I'm your son," Keanu nodded. "But there's more, isn't there?" Elias looked up at him with eyes that seemed far too old for his face. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I'm just listening better than most." From that day on, everything changed. People started calling. Journalists, reporters, even pastors. Word was spreading about a child who spoke like a prophet and a father who followed his son. Some accused them of lying. Others believed with all their hearts. And in the middle of it all stood Keanu, torn between the world he knew and the mystery. He now walked through every day. He watched his son with new eyes. With awe. With fear. With hope. He didn't know where this path would lead. But he knew one thing. It had already begun. The vision that lit a Ferretti wind was strong that morning, rattling the windows of the small cabin tucked deep in the forest. Keanu Reeves stood by the fire, holding a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. He didn't care. He hadn't slept much the night before. His mind kept turning over and over on the things his son had said. The way Elias had spoken to the homeless man. The moment he saved the choking girl. And the words. So calm, so certain. as if they were coming from somewhere else. Keanu glanced outside and saw Elias sitting quietly by the lake again, barefoot, still watching the ripples on the surface like he was waiting for something. That was the thing, Elias was always waiting, always listening. Keanu stepped outside and walked slowly toward him. "You've been quiet," he said softly. Elias looked up and smiled. "He told me something new." Keanu sat down beside him in the cold grass, heart already racing. "Another secret?" Elias nodded. "He said the world is about to tremble. But not from war, from love. And it's going to start with a story." Keanu stared at his son, confused. "What kind of story?" Elias turned to him. "Mine." 2 days later, Keanu got a call from a journalist named Maya. She worked for a global news network but had a reputation for honesty and kindness. She'd heard the rumors about a boy who had visions, about a choking girl saved by a whisper, about Keanu Reeves walking away from Hollywood and following his child into the unknown. "I don't want a headline," Maya said over the phone. "I just want the truth." Keanu hesitated. "I don't know what the truth is anymore." "Then let him speak it." Keanu looked at Elias, who was quietly coloring in the corner of the room, and asked, "Do you want to talk to her?" Elias shrugged. "Only if she's listening." Not just hearing, really listening. The next morning, Maya arrived at the cabin. She expected cameras, but Keanu had one request: no filming. No bright lights. Just a voice recorder and a notebook. She agreed. They sat at the kitchen table. Keanu, Elias, and Maya. The fire crackled behind them. And slowly, with simple words and soft voice, Elias began to speak. "I saw a mountain," he said, "but it wasn't made of rocks. It was made of prayers. Every one of them stacked on top of the other, but some of them were breaking. Not because God didn't hear them, but because the people stopped believing they could be answered." Maya's pen froze. "And what happens when they stop believing?" she asked gently. Elias looked into her eyes. "Then the mountain falls. And when it falls, people don't know where to stand anymore." The room was quiet. Maya leaned in. "And what's the answer?" Elias smiled softly. He said it's simple: rebuild it. One prayer at a time, not with fear, not with anger, but with love. Maya asked many more questions. About the dreams, the whispers, the voice of Jesus. Elias answered every one with clarity that stunned even Keanu. Not dramatic, not theatrical, just honest, gentle truth. Maya stayed for 3 hours. And when she left, she was crying. A week later, the article went live. It wasn't on the front page, and it didn't have flashy headlines. It was simple: the boy who listens to God, and the father who followed him. Keanu didn't expect much. He thought maybe a few curious readers would comment. But within 2 days, something strange began to happen. People started writing letters. Hundreds of them. Them thousands. Some from people who had lost faith. Others from people who never had it. Many were stories of pain, confusion, or deep loneliness. But all of them had one thing in common. They said something about Elias's words made them stop, think, reflect. Some said they prayed for the first time in years. Others said they cried while reading it, and they didn't know why. Keanu sat up late at night, going through the messages. They came in waves: emails, voicemails, even paper envelopes. The world was listening, and it was breaking open. But not everyone was kind. Some accused them of lies. Others said it was a stunt, a publicity game. Some even called it a cult. Critics attacked Elias's words. Some said it was dangerous to let a child speak of visions. Others demanded proof. Keanu expected this. He'd lived in the public eye long enough to know that not everyone would believe. But what surprised him was how calm Elias remained. "They're scared," Elias said one evening, watching the news on mute. "Scared people shout. It's how they try to feel safe." Keanu sighed. "How are you so sure about all this?" Elias looked at him with gentle eyes. Because he tells me not to be afraid, and when he says it, I believe him. One night, just before bed, Elias came to Keanu and said, "Tomorrow I have to go somewhere." Keanu frowned. "Where?" "You'll see." Keanu was used to this by now. He had learned not to push too hard. Elias never acted recklessly, but he also didn't always explain things. He just knew. And that morning, just after sunrise, he led Keanu down the road toward town. But halfway there, Elias turned off the path and headed into the woods. They walked in silence until they reached a small broken-down church. The roof was partly caved in. The wooden pews were scattered and falling apart. Vines had crept through the cracks in the walls. It looked forgotten. "This is the place," Elias said. Keanu looked around. "What happened here? It used to be full of music, full of love. But then the people stopped coming. They thought God stopped talking. But he didn't." Elias walked to the front of the church, climbed up the old creaky steps, and stood behind what was left of the pulpit. He closed his eyes. And then he spoke, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. He said, "This is where it starts. Not in stadiums, not on TV, not in crowds, but here, in the broken places. Because this is where the hurting people are. This is where the love is needed most." And as he stood there, something happened. Birds began to land on the windowsills. Wind rushed gently through the open doors. And Keanu, he wept. He didn't know why. There was no big moment, no miracle. Just presence. Peace. The kind he hadn't felt in years. He knew it in his bones. Something had just begun. The following week, more reporters came. This time, Keanu allowed cameras, but only outside the cabin. No bright lights, no shouting questions. Just silence, nature, and time. He wanted the world to see, but not exploit. A quiet interview was filmed. It aired globally. And the response was like nothing anyone expected. It wasn't just that people watched. They felt it. Messages poured in again. A single mom in Peru who said her child stopped crying after hearing Elias's words. A man in Norway who said he forgave his brother after 20 years. A teacher in South Africa who played the interview in class, and half the students asked to pray. But most shocking of all was a message from a world leader. A president. The message was private. Keanu didn't reveal the name. But he showed the words to Elias. "Your son reminded me why I started serving people in the first place. Please tell him, thank you." Elias read the message and said, "He's going to help, but he doesn't know it yet." Keanu asked, "Help with what?" Elias whispered, "The fire." "What fire?" Elias looked out the window. "The fire of love. It's going to spread." Meanwhile, Maya, the journalist, came back to visit. "I've never felt anything like this," she told Keanu. "Do you think it's divine?" Keanu looked at her. "I think we're seeing something we forgot existed." She nodded. "People are hungry for something real." Keanu replied, "Then maybe it's time we stopped feeding them noise." The world didn't change in one night. Not everyone believed. Not everyone cared. But for those who did, something started. Small gatherings in homes. Letters to strangers. Apologies. Prayers. Healing. Stories. And Keanu, the man who had once been known for his silence, was now speaking too, but not about films or fame, about truth. About fatherhood. About what happens when you finally stop to listen. He looked at Elias one evening and said, "This story, it's bigger than us." Double quotes. Elias nodded. "That's why we have to finish telling it." Keanu asked, "What comes next?" Elias closed his eyes. And then he said, "The storm." The storm arrives. Wind came first, loud, sharp, and sudden. It rushed down from the mountains like it had a voice of its own. Trees bent low, birds scattered. And inside the small cabin where Keanu and his son Elias were staying, The lights flickered for just a moment before going out completely. Keanu stood at the window, watching the sky twist into a deeper shade of gray. The lake outside had turned wild, with waves crashing against the stones like something angry was hidden beneath the surface. Elias sat on the wooden floor, quiet, still unfazed. "Is this the storm you talked about?" Keanu asked, his voice calm but shaken. Elias looked up and nodded. "It's not just outside, Dad. It's coming from inside people too. Fear is spreading, but it's okay. We're ready." Keanu didn't feel ready. Not for this. Not for what was about to happen. By nightfall, power lines were down across the region. Cell towers stopped working. Number signal, no calls, just silence. The world felt smaller somehow, like it had gone back in time. Outside the cabin, wind howled through the trees, tearing branches loose and sending them flying. Keanu lit candles and started a fire in the old stone fireplace. He tried to hide his worry, but inside his chest was tight. Not from the weather, but from what Elias had said. The storm is going to shake people. Elias wasn't scared. He hummed softly while drawing again, this time a picture of a cracked earth with light pouring through the cracks. "What are you drawing now?" Keanu asked, sitting beside him. Elias smiled. "A map." "A map to what?" "Hope." Keanu reached over and gently held his son's hand. "Elias, if this storm gets worse, what do we do?" Elias looked straight into his eyes. "We wait, we listen, and then we speak when they're ready." "Who?" Elias whispered. "The broken ones. They're going to come." The next day, Keanu and Elias stepped outside to find part of the forest path blocked by fallen trees. The wind had calmed, but the sky was still heavy with clouds. They walked around the edge of the lake and found something unexpected. A group of people gathered near the old, broken-down church. Some were from the town, some were strangers, and all of them looked lost. They had heard the stories. Some had seen the interview. Others had read Maya's article. They came with questions, doubts, pain. And now, with the power gone and fear growing, they came in person. They didn't ask for a miracle. They asked for peace. Keanu stepped forward, unsure of what to say. Then he looked at Elias. "Should we go?" Elias nodded. "This is the place." Inside the old church, people sat on the floor, holding blankets and candles. Some cried. Others just stared at the ground. One woman stood and said her husband had gone missing during the storm. A young man said he hadn't spoken to his father in 12 years, but last night, something told him to forgive. And he didn't know why. A silence followed. Then Elias stood. He was small. His voice was soft, but everyone heard him. "Jesus said the storm wouldn't destroy us. It would wake us up. Some people are going to lose things. Others already have. But in the shaking, the truth will be clear. We're not meant to carry this alone." He paused. "He told me that when people sit together in their pain, they find the door they forgot to knock on." Tears fell. Not from fear. But from something deeper. Connection. Hope. The group stayed overnight in the church. Keanu cooked simple food from supplies at the cabin. Others brought bread, water, and even an old guitar. Someone began to sing a broken, trembling voice that somehow felt like a lullaby. They didn't have much, but they had each other. And that was enough. By morning, more people arrived. News had spread again. Not through the internet, but word of mouth. Someone told someone else. A grandmother told her niece. A boy on a bike brought his sister. They came not for entertainment. They came because something inside them was hurting. And they thought maybe this place had answers. Maya returned too. Not with a camera crew. Just a notepad and wide eyes. "People are walking here," she whispered to Keanu. "Some came too. Days on foot." Keanu nodded. "They're not coming for my son. They're coming for the truth in his words." Maya asked, "And where does he get that truth?" Keanu looked at Elias, who was now sitting beside an old man with no shoes, holding his hand. I think he gets it from someone who's been speaking to us all along. But not everyone was pleased. That afternoon, 2 officials from the town council came. They said the gathering was unsafe, that the church was unstable, that they couldn't allow large groups without permission. We understand your good intentions. One of them said politely, but this is not legal. Keanu stayed calm. What harm are we doing? It's not about harm, the second official replied. It's about order, rules, structure, and safety. Elias walked up quietly and said, rules are good when they protect. But sometimes people build walls out of rules because they're afraid to feel. The officials blinked. One of them turned red. Keanu quickly stepped in. Look, Will. Be careful. We're not running a protest. We're not asking for money. People are just healing. Can you give us time? After a long pause, one of the officials sighed. You have one more day. After that, we'll need to shut this down. Keanu nodded. But something in Elias's face said that day would be enough. That night, the storm returned. Not wind, not rain. But confusion. People argued. Someone claimed Elias was just guessing. Another said he had faked the moment with the choking girl. Someone else said, why would Jesus talk to a child? And for the first time, Keanu saw Elias falter. His eyes welled with tears. He turned and ran into the trees. Keanu followed. Heart racing, he found his son sitting on a log, head bowed. I don't think I'm strong enough, Elias whispered. I thought I could do this, but maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just a kid. Keanu knelt beside him and took his hand. Do you remember what Jesus told you about broken doors? Elias nodded. Then you already know the truth. Even if others don't, you've let him speak through you. That takes courage most grown-ups don't have. Elias looked up. Why does it hurt so much? Keanu wrapped his arms around him. Because love hurts, especially when people don't understand it. They sat in silence, father and son, wrapped in the dark and the weight of the world. And then a sound. Footsteps. Someone was coming. A group of people from the church had followed them. Some were crying. Others said they were sorry. One woman held a candle and whispered, we believe you. We were just scared. Elias stood slowly. His face softened. And in the moonlight, he whispered one sentence that brought everyone to tears. Jesus said the ones who hurt us most are the ones we need to love the loudest. At dawn, just before the officials came back, the church was quiet. Empty pews. Scattered shoes. A few candles flickering low. Keanu looked around and felt something stir. Then Elias walked to the front again and said, today we go. But love stays. He said the message doesn't need a building. It just needs people. People nodded. They understood. What they felt here, what they learned. It would live on. In their homes. In their hordes. In their hearts. The storm had come. It hadn't destroyed. It had awakened. Asterisk. The secret that divided the world a week had passed since the church gathering. The storm had faded and the skies were clear again. But the world was anything but calm. Since Maya's second article and the silent footage of the people gathered in that broken chapel had reached the internet, something massive had been set in motion. People everywhere were talking. In homes. In offices. On social media. Some said a movement had begun. Others called it a deception. And right in the middle of it all was a quiet boy named Elias and his father, KeanuReeves. Keanu stared at his laptop in disbelief. Major networks had picked up the story. Some praised Elias, calling him a child prophet. Others questioned Keanu's parenting, saying he was exposing his son to danger. Influencers online argued nonstop, some sharing Elias's words like holy verses, others mocking them with cruel memes. Elias sat nearby, reading letters instead of watching screens. Keanu turned to him. They're arguing about you, Elias. People are choosing sides. Elias looked up calm. He said that would happen. Truth always shakes people. What do we do? Elias stood and walked outside. Keanu followed. They walked silently down the forest path until they reached the same lake where it all began. The water was still again, like glass. Dad, Elias said, he told me one more secret. And it's the hardest one yet. Keanu's heart skipped. Can you tell me? I have to tell the world. That night, Elias asked Maya to come back one last time. No crew, no news team. Just her and a single microphone. They sat in the cabin, the fire crackling behind them. Maya single quotes, as eyes were full of concern. Are you sure you're ready, Elias? He nodded. Yes. He said it's time. Keanu stood in the corner, silent, his hands tight at his sides. Maya pressed record. What do you want to say? She asked softly. Elias leaned forward. Jesus told me that most people want miracles but run from mercy. They want light, but not the kind that shows their shadows. Maya's breath caught. Elias continued. He said love is the most dangerous thing in the world. Because real love forces people to look at their pain. And not everyone's ready for that. Keanu felt his throat tighten. Elias whispered. He also told me something else. A secret that's not for me to keep anymore. Maya leaned in. What is it? Elias closed his eyes. He said that a great change is coming. And that the people who choose love over fear will be the ones who rebuild the world. Not the richest, not the loudest, the kindest. Silence. Then he added, and he said it starts with us, now. Maya pressed stop. And in that moment, everything changed. Maya didn't release the full interview right away. She sent a copy to Keanu first. Are you sure this should go public? She asked. This could bring everything. Love, hate, worship, attacks. Keanu looked at his son, who was drawing again. This time, he was drawing a bridge between two cliffs, and on the bridge stood people holding lanterns. Keanu nodded. Share it. When the interview aired, it spread like wildfire. Some watched with tears in their eyes. Others threw their phones across the room. Church leaders from around the globe responded. Some praised Elias's words as a revival. Others condemned them as false prophecy. Governments made statements. A few said they were watching Keanu and Elias for public safety. Online, debates broke out so fiercely that several platforms had to disable comment sections altogether. Keanu tried to shield Elias from the worst of it, but the boy already knew. It's okay, Elias said. They're waking up, and waking up hurts. The family stayed hidden in the cabin for safety. Reporters tried to find them. Drones flew overhead. Strangers left notes by the lake. But Keanu kept the doors shut. Then, one evening, a knock came. At the door. A quiet knock. Keanu opened it slowly, heart pounding. It was a man. Late 50s, tears in his eyes. Hands trembling. I'm sorry, he whispered. I needed to see him, my daughter. She took her life last year. I haven't prayed since. I haven't spoken to anyone. But then I heard the boy. And something inside me cracked. I want to believe again. I want to live. Keanu let him in. Elias walked forward and held the man's hand. He didn't say anything. Just listen. And that was enough. The next day, Keanu sat by the fire reading through more letters. He found one that made him freeze. It was from a powerful political figure. One who had been openly critical of the movement. It said, I don't understand your son. But something he said won't leave me. Real love shows our shadows. I've hidden mine for decades. Tell him, thank you. Even if I never say it out loud again. Keanu stared at the words. Then looked up. Elias, you've started something we can't stop. We're not supposed to stop it, Elias replied. We're supposed to carry it. Keanu hesitated. How do we do that without getting crushed? Elias looked at him with a quiet smile. By not carrying it alone. Soon, a small team of people who believed in Elias's message formed a circle around them. Maya helped organize. A nurse from Chicago came to assist with logistics. A pastor from Kenya offered spiritual protection. Even a former Hollywood agent showed up not to profit, but to offer his skills for peace. They weren't building a brand. They were protecting a boy with a message. And the message was this: love is still louder. But with more attention came more danger. Keanu received a threat in the mail. No. Return address. Then another. Someone hacked his email. Another posted his private phone number online. One night, a rock was thrown through the window of the cabin. Keanu rushed to Elias's room. The boy was awake, calm, sitting on the bed. It's starting, isn't it? Keanu whispered. Elias nodded. But don't be afraid. He already told me what to do. Keanu kneeled. What do you mean? I have to leave, Elias said. Keanu single quotes, as blood ran cold. No, you're just a child. Elias looked deep into his eyes. I'm not leaving forever. Just long enough to make them listen. Where will you go? To the places people forgot. He said the message has to touch the ones who were silenced, the ones the world ignores. Keanu broke down. You're my son, he said through tears. I can't let you go alone. Elias reached out and wiped a tear from his father's cheek. You won't be far behind. You'll feel me in every kind act, in every whispered prayer. Keanu clutched him close, and in the silence he whispered, okay. 2 days later, Elias left in a car driven by Maya and 2 volunteers. No press, no announcement, just a soft goodbye. Keanu stood alone on the porch. The wind was quiet. The sky was blue, and though his heart felt heavy, he knew this was just the beginning. Because sometimes when the world is broken, a child must go first. The disappearance that silenced the world. Keanu hadn't spoken to his son in 3 days. Not since Elias left in that white car, with nothing but a backpack, a notebook, and the soft assurance that he was following something greater than himself. The cabin felt too quiet now. The walls, once filled with laughter, drawings, whispers of hope, stood still and hollow. Keanu sat by the fire, Elias's last drawing beside him. A lantern in the dark. He said he'd be okay. Maya whispered on a call from her hotel room in Tanzania. He's with us. We're rotating teams every few days for safety. He spends time in hospitals, shelters, orphanages. He doesn't speak much, just listens. And people open up like they've known him their whole lives. Is he happy? Keanu asked, voice cracking. He's glowing, Maya said. But yesterday, something changed. Keanu stood up. What do you mean? Maya hesitated. He asked us to take him somewhere far. A remote village. No roads. No signal. He said Jesus told him someone there had been waiting their whole life to be seen. We dropped him off with a guide. He promised he'd call by this morning. Keanu's heart dropped. And no word. Nothing yet. Hours passed. Keanu tried not to panic. But every second of silence felt like a scream. He called Maya. Again. Nothing. Called the backup driver. No answer. Tried the number of the local guide. Voicemail. By evening, he called the one person he thought he'd never call again. Daniel, a former intelligence agent who had once worked security for Keanu during a movie shoot in war zones. I need to find my son, Keanu said. Daniel didn't ask questions. Send me coordinates. I'll start now. Keanu's hands trembled. Something in his spirit told him this wasn't just a miscommunication. Something was wrong. The world didn't know yet. No news channels had caught wind of it. Not yet. The last photo of Elias that circulated online showed him sitting on a concrete floor in Uganda, surrounded by barefoot children. He was smiling, holding one of their hands. The caption read, "The boy who listens is now the boy who heals." But now, the boy was gone. On the second day, Keanu got a message. From an unnumbered. It said, "We don't want your son's message. The world doesn't need another prophet. Tell him to stop, or we'll make it permanent." Keanu's chest Burn. He sent it to Daniel. Daniel called immediately. They've been watching him. They've been watching you. Keanu's voice was sharp. Who? Too many people. Political extremists. Religious radicals. Even people from the dark web. They think your son is a threat. Because he makes people believe in something pure. And pure things scare people with power. Keanu said, "Find him." Daniel replied, "I will." The third day came. The story leaked. Someone posted online. Keanu Reeves, son missing after mysterious spiritual tour. Within hours, it was everywhere. News anchors guessed. Podcasters speculated. Half the internet wept. The other half mocked. But no one knew the truth. Not yet. A woman named Josephine from Haiti sent Keanu a video message. In it, she sat in a small hut made of wood and cloth. She held a baby in one arm and tears in her eyes. "Your son came here last week," she said. "He didn't ask for anything, just listened. Held my baby's hand, said he was beautiful. That no one had ever told him that before. And then he looked at me and said, 'You're not invisible.' And now I believe it." More videos came. From India. From Brazil. From forgotten places. Testimonies, miracles, stories of healing that didn't come from power but from presence. And still no Elias. On the fifth day, Keanu flew to Africa. He couldn't wait any longer. Maya met him at the airport. She looked exhausted, shaken. "We've searched the village," she said. "We found the guide." He said Elias walked off alone, said he needed to pray. He was last seen walking toward the hills, barefoot. Keanu whispered, "Why would he do that?" Maya wiped a tear. He said something about a voice, that someone was crying out. He said he needed to go alone. They searched for days. In forests. In hills. They followed every tip. Used every contact. Nothing. Not a footprint. Not a word. The world watched in silence. And Keanu's heart broke more with each hour. On the seventh day, the world paused. A social media campaign exploded. #Bring Elias home trended across every major platform. Celebrities posted. Churches held candlelight vigils. People of all faiths, even those with no faith, prayed. Because this boy was not just a story anymore. He was a symbol. Of light. Of love. Of hope. And now he was missing. Keanu stood alone one night under a sky full of stars. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten much, hadn't felt peace. And he whispered into the dark, "Please, if you're real, if he's really with you, give him back, please. He's just a child." A breeze passed. Soft. Gentle. And for the first time in days, Keanu closed his eyes and felt something stir. Not fear, not pain. Something else. A whisper. Like a breath. He's not lost. The next morning, a man came running to the village gate. He was barefoot, wild-eyed, shouting in his native language. Maya translated. He says, he saw a boy, alone, on the mountain, sitting under a tree, glowing. Keanu ran. Without question. Without pause. He followed the man's path up into the hills. Feet bleeding, lungs burning. Hope rising. When he reached the top, he saw him. Elias. Sitting cross-legged under a lone tree, looking out at the valley below. Smiling. Alive. Keanu fell to his knees and cried like a child. Elias stood up and walked over, placing his small hand on his father's chest. "I knew you'd come." Keanu sobbed. "Why did you disappear? Why didn't you call?" Elias looked at him gently. "He told me to be still. He said the world had to learn to stop shouting and start listening." Keanu wrapped his arms around his son and didn't let go. "I thought I lost you," Elias whispered. "You never did." They returned to the village that night. The people clapped. Some wept. Others knelt. But Elias simply said, "I'm not a king. I'm not a prophet. I'm just a boy who listened. And you can too." The message was clear. The silence had been loud. But now, the voice of love had returned. The choice that changed everything. The sun was rising slow and golden, casting long shadows through the trees near the edge of the village. Keanu sat on a wooden bench beside Elias, his arm resting behind the boy's small shoulders. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The silence was full, but not empty. Elias had returned, but something about him was different. Not older, not tired, just deeper. He had seen something the world hadn't, something he couldn't explain, and Keanu could feel it in the stillness between them. He told me one more secret, Elias whispered. Keanu turned to him slowly, his heart tight. Another one? Elias nodded. It's the last one. Keanu waited. Elias didn't speak right away. Instead, he stood, walked to the middle of the field where the children of the village were playing, and sat cross-legged on the ground. One by one, the children gathered around him. Some sat in his lap, some leaned on his shoulders. He spoke to them gently, asking their names, their dreams, their favorite colors. And then he looked back at his father. He said, the last secret is not a word. It's a choice. Keanu stood slowly and walked to him. What choice? He asked. Elias looked up at him, whether to stay. Keanu's breath caught. What do you mean? Elias stood, brushed the dust from his hands, and took his father's hand. He said, I can stay here with you, with the world. I can keep sharing his love, or I can go back. Keanu whispered, go back where? Elias looked toward the sky. And for a moment, the world held its breath. Keanu dropped to his knees. You mean, die? Elias didn't answer. He just held his father tight. Keanu's body shook. No, I just got you back. I can't lose you again. You won't, Elias said softly. Not really. Keanu looked at his son's face, calm, steady kind. And for the first time in his life, he truly understood the meaning of surrender. The kind of love that lets go. What did he say would happen if you stayed? Elias smiled. Millions would listen. Hearts would change. Hate would fall. But the pain would be deep. The world would try to own me, shape me, twist the truth. And if you go, they'll still remember. The seed is already planted. And love doesn't need me. It just needs to be chosen. Keanu buried his face in his son's chest. Then I choose you. Elias placed his hand over his father's heart, and I choose him. That night, Elias asked for one last thing. Take me to the place where I first told you the secret. He said, the lake. Keanu wrapped a blanket around him and carried him through the dark forest. The stars were bright overhead, and the moon hung low like a silver tear. They sat beside the lake, just like they had that first morning. The water was still. The trees whispered. Elias laid his head in his father's lap. He's here, he whispered. Keanu brushed the boy's hair gently. I know, don't be sad. I'm not, just full. Elias smiled. That's what love does. He didn't speak after that. His breathing slowed. The night held its silence, and just before dawn, as the sky began to bloom with pink and light, Keanu felt something leave, something soft, peaceful, and beyond understanding. Elias was still, but the world was not. Somehow, in that moment, everything had changed. The news spread fast. Millions cried. Candlelight vigils were held in every corner of the world. Airplanes paused with silent tributes. Cities dimmed their lights. People fell to their knees, not in grief, but in gratitude. And they whispered his name like a prayer, not because he was a miracle, but because he reminded them they were. Maya later released a video one Elias had recorded just before he left for the village. In it, he sat beneath a tree, sunlight on his face, and said, if you're watching this, I'm probably gone, but I'm not far. Love never dies, and neither do the words you speak in kindness. So speak them, every day. Speak them louder than hate, louder than doubt, louder than fear. Love louder. That video was watched 4.2 billion times in the first month. Translations were made in every major language. And in homes across the world, mothers whispered to their children, "Listen," like Elias did. A year passed. Keanu didn't return to Hollywood. He didn't need to. Instead, he traveled quietly, visiting the places his son had been. He sat with the people Elias had touched. He hugged them, laughed with them, cried with them. In Brazil, a young girl gave him a worn-out notebook filled with drawings of bridges and lanterns. In Egypt, a blind boy told him, "Your son made me see." In Ukraine, a soldier said, "He taught me to forgive before I ever fired a weapon." And in every place, Keanu would whisper the same thing. He listened to you. Now it's our turn to listen to each other. A foundation was started called the Listening Heart. Not to raise money. Not to spread religion. But to create spaces for broken people to be heard. To sit in silence. To weep. To heal. It grew faster than anyone expected. And at every building's entrance, etched in stone, were the final words of Elias Reeves, "You're not invisible. You were always loved." And on one quiet morning, deep in the mountains, Keanu returned to the lake. He sat in the same place. Closed his eyes and smiled, because somewhere in the silence, he could still hear his son's voice. Whispering, guiding, loving. And he knew Elias never really left. He just became part of everything that mattered.